Hi, lovies. Many of you may know that last week there was a thread around what would you guys really love support in this week, and really just transforming areas of your life that aren't working the way you'd like them to, or in really making shifts and amazing progress in your business, any of those sorts of areas. And one of the topics that came up was on saying no when you really want to say yes, or saying yes when you really want to say no, and really just not being able to powerfully say what it is that you want in a moment. And this conversation that we're going to have right now is not just about how do you say no when you want to say no, and how do you say yes when you want to say yes. It's a little bit bigger than that. And what I mean by that is that by saying the opposite of what you mean, or anything different than what you truly desire, what you're really doing is you're not living your truth. And not living your truth can show up in a lot of different ways, besides whether it is that you're saying yes when you really mean no, or no when you really mean yes. Not living your truth could be any time that you take on a client that you really truly don't desire to work with, but you're taking it on because you have a wealth consciousness challenge, or you're fearful of the money. Not living your truth is doing anything where you have a desire and you have a want, and you're not acting on it. You're not making that become a reality. You're really just doing something that doesn't feel good, or doesn't make you happy, or that some people say they experience regret, or things of that nature. So that is the conversation we're going to have today. Hi, lovies. If you have any questions, or excited, or want to show some love, definitely just comment below so that I can see what your questions are, and whether you're doing it now when you're watching it live, or for folks that are going to watch the replay, does not matter. Really, just like comment below and let me know what's kind of going on with you, what challenges you're having. Any times you're not living in your truth, just let me know. So there's literally no judgment here, and really just getting a sense of what you're looking for, so that I can continue to make that difference for you. So one of the things, and I apologize if I make any weird faces during this, just so you know, I feel like a sneeze is coming on, but it hasn't happened yet, and I keep feeling it. So I'm trying not to, I'm like, do I look at the light? What do I do? I'm trying to make that not happen. But where I'm really at is how can I support you in those moments when you're not living in your truth? And really just what actions can you take now, such that you are really prepared to be able to consistently live in your truth day in and day out. And so what we're going to do is a little exercise right now. And if you have a notebook, that would be great. If you are watching the replay, hit pause real quick and get yourself like a pen and paper, just anything that you can write on. And what I'm going to ask you guys to do right now is to just really think about any of those things that you are doing and you don't want to be doing, or things that you've taken on and you really didn't want to do it, or anything that is an area of your life or your business where it's not working as well as you'd like it to. Really just kind of take on any of that, because I really believe that what we're going to talk about right now today will be able to make shifts on any of those areas. So if you have any sorts of areas where you're like, ooh, business not going the way I want it to, you can really just address that as well. Because your truth, and for you to really kind of understand, this is the premise of the conversation, your truth is that you are freaking phenomenal, and that you're really like meant to have anything that you really want in this world. And so if you are standing in, oh, okay, like I am supposed to realize my desires, then you'll really be able to understand where I'm coming from with this exercise. So for those of you that have just joined, what we're going to do to really sort of address any of those moments when you're not living in your truth, when you're not doing things that you want to do because of a fear or a thought, when you say yes or no to things that you really don't mean to say yes or no to for other reasons, we're going to really kind of do some work together really quickly and see how we can make a shift in that. And so the first thing that I'm going to ask you all to do, for those of you who have just joined, on a piece of paper or on your computer or something that you have handy, is just make a note and list out all the areas of your life that are, or really your business, that aren't working the way you'd like them to. that you are responsible for and you're like, ooh, this is not going the way I want it to. Or any of those moments or those people where you're like, oh, for some reason I always say yes to this person when I mean no, or yes to this group when I mean no, or no to this person when I mean yes. Like anything like that, just write all of those down and get them out. And if you have one that you're like, ooh, this is what I'm going to go to work on today, Nikki, and I want to share that with you, absolutely comment below, like, okay, this is the thing, this is the area where I'm like, I would like to write this down and really make a difference in this area right now. So any of those, just jot them all down and then comment, and I'll kind of see them, and we'll keep moving. So what we're really going to start to do is to really get at a premise that I really got from a couple of different coaching organizations and experiences that really holds true for me. And what I've realized is that it's not so much the what we do that that makes us like, oh, I did this, therefore I'm a good or a bad person, or I'm not living in my truth, or anything like that. It's really almost the opposite. It's who are you being? Like, how are you acting? Who do you believe yourself to be in the moment that you make those decisions or take those actions? And so put it another way, when I started my career, I had some disempowering thoughts that would show up for me. So, for example, if I'm sitting down and I'm sitting in like, ooh, am I enough? Are people really going to want to work with me? Is this really something that, you know, people are going to want? If that's the person and the way I'm being and the way I see myself, that's taking action, then you can see how my actions would therefore be potentially like inconsistent. Or how I could, you know, have moments where I'm like, oh, I'm confident one day, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring in new clients. And then the next day it's like, oop, not confident, and then no clients come in. And then like about a month later it's like, woo, confident again, and more clients come in, and then not confident, and then no clients come in. So it's really just who you see yourself to be is really what determines what actions you're going to take. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is start thinking about, like, pick one area. So if you are a person that's like, oh, for this one guy, I always say no when I really mean yes. Or for this one activity for my business, I always say I'm going to do it and I don't. So for example, like I always say I'm going to do my Facebook Lives, or I always say I'm going to be visible, and then I don't do it. And really start to decipher, okay, like, well, who am I being? Like, what are those thoughts that come up for me when I am or am not going to take those actions? So it could be, hey, I am going to, you know, I want to say no to this person all the time, but what automatically comes up for me is I'm afraid, like, oh my goodness, will they like me? Or I don't want them to not like me. Or I say yes for the same reason. It could be like, oh, I say yes because I want them to like me, or something like that. Or it could be, hey, I always say that I am going to do my Facebook Live this week, or I always say I'm going to write newsletters, or I'm going to be visible. And then the thought that comes up right then is like, ooh, you know, like, am I good enough? Am I really going to add value to what they're saying? Like, does this make any sense? So, like, if you are tracking with what I'm saying, please, like, just shoot me a comment below and let me know, like, oh, yes, I totally get it, or no, I'm not with you. And I'm also going to do something really quickly and pull up my computer, only because I have noticed in past Facebook Lives for me lately, my phone isn't showing me the comments. And so just do a quick look-see over here, because if any of you are commenting right now, I can't see it, and I can see how many of you are on the group and who's on, and you guys are usually talkers, so I'm like, oh no, it might just not be showing me your comments. So really just take on thinking about, okay, I have committed to, you know, being the person that does Facebook Lives regularly for my business, for example, and I'm not. And here's what comes up for me, and really just think like, ooh, this is the thought that really, like, I was going in the direction, I was about to do that Facebook Live, and then I had this thought, and that's what stopped me. And really just start jotting down like, ooh, what is the thing, the thought that kind of takes me right off track? What is the fear or the insecurity or the, you know, confidence or whatever it could be that really just takes you from taking on or not taking on what it is that you said you really want? So I would really just jot that down, and we're going to start talking about that today as well. So what ends up happening is, for me, what I like to do is sit down and not spend too much time doing it, but sit down and go, okay, like, what is it that stops me? Like, what is it that automatically comes up for me that prevents me from taking that action? And then I go a little bit deeper and I go, and who was I being in that moment? Like, what happened? And so, for an example, when I started my business, I loved creating content. I mean, I still do, but I was all about content creation. I would do Facebook Lives regularly. And then what would happen is that, you know, you have that thought like, ooh, well, not everybody was like watching the Facebook Live, or like I didn't get as many comments as I did before. Like, what if this isn't really working? What if people really aren't liking what they're seeing? And, you know, you start entertaining those thoughts and those conversations, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, next thing you know, you haven't done a Facebook Live in like a week. And you're like, oh crap, like where has my Facebook Lives been? What is going on? What's happening there? So once you can kind of start seeing like, ooh, that's the thought I had, and that's what stops me, you can start going, okay, I can see how that's happening, and that's not who I am. Like, I'm not the person that is afraid or who's, you know, unconfident or not confident. Those aren't my truths. And as you can start writing down like, ooh, this is what's happening, this is what's stopping, this is what's stopping me, this is who I'm being, and that's not who I really see myself to be, then you can start going, okay, well, what happens? You are so welcome, Lovey. What happens when I intend to do something and then I do the opposite? Who am I being when I do that? And once you really get a sense of who you're being and what is coming up for you and why you're not taking the actions you intend to, you can start going, okay, I get that, you know, I may be in that moment like the fearful person or the unconfident person. But really, once you get that nailed out, start looking at what the impact is of that. Like, what is happening or not happening because you have that fear or that thought, or you're being that person that you truly are not. So it could mean like, all right, well, let's say, you know, for visibility, let's say you're the person that's like, I was supposed to do 3 Facebook Lives this week. I was supposed to, you know, really be present, and I didn't. And the impact of that is that there were, you know, 300 people, or like, you know, however many people typically watch your videos or are present, that many people didn't get to see who I am and get a very powerful message. Like, they were missing out on something that I had to share that would have really been of value and made a difference for them. And you could also see like, and on top of that, any new people that could have potentially gotten to know me, they missed out on an opportunity. Like, really just start listing out, okay, I was being this person. These were the thoughts that stopped me, or either way you can go. These are the thoughts that stopped me. I was being this person in that moment. This is the impact of that. This is really what people missed out on, what didn't happen, missed opportunities. And it's not to write those down as like, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure, because you're not. It's really just like, okay, when I am being this person, this is the impact. And this is what ends up happening, just so that you're really present to it. And then the next thing for you to do is go, okay, well, I don't want to be that person. Or maybe you do. If you want to be that person, you can be. But if you don't want to be that person, start creating like, well, who do I really want to be? Like, what would really excite me to be instead of that person? Or who is it that you aren't able to be when you are being that person? Because what I found is that, you know, 2 personalities or like things can't exist in the same space. So usually in a moment, you're not both like super confident and super insecure. It's usually like, ooh, moment confident, ooh, moment insecure. And so if you're in that insecurity, you're not able to be that confident person. And if confidence isn't the word that lights you up, then what is the word that really lights you up? Maybe it's being, you know, I want to be a badass, and I'm not a badass when I'm, you know, really concerned with who I am to other people, or I'm really afraid of what they're going to say. It's like, okay, I want to be unstoppable. I want to be powerful. I want to be fearless. I want to be, you know, my girl boss. Whatever it is that really gets you really excited and you're like, that's it. That's who I want to be. Like, that's what you get to really think about. Like, okay, if I'm being that person, if I get to be that person, because you are literally the most magical person in the world, whether you know it or not. Like, you're all really magical. And so I'm glad you're back, Paula. Sorry. You really get to see who you get to be. And when you are being that person, like when you're being whatever lights you up, whatever you truly desire, start thinking, okay, well, like, what would that person do? And start writing down, okay, like, if I were, you know, a badass, powerful girl boss, I'm making this up a little bit, like I would be doing my Facebook Lives 3 days a week at the same time every week and letting people know about it and sharing what messages I have to share with them in the world. This is literally for folks like, you write whatever it means to you. That may not be what it means to you. Or it could be like, I would be, asking every person I meet if they would like to work with me, if they sound like an ideal client. I would be the person that like does this, that, and the other. And you really start just writing out like, okay, being the person that I really want to be, that I really am deep down inside and I'm going to bring out right now, who is that person? What actions are they taking? And you just start listing those out. And then what I like to do is then write out, okay, now if I were doing those actions that that person that I just created would be being, if I were being this person and taking those actions, what would be the actual result of that? Imagining, like you imagine, what would be the new impact of that? And start writing down, okay, well, if I am, a powerful badass and I am taking the actions of doing 3, Facebook Lives a week and asking anybody I meet that's an ideal client if they want to work with me, then the likely result is that I would bring on, consistently have new clients or, consistently be growing my Facebook group, whatever it is that you really desire. Just start thinking like, okay, well, if I were being that person, what would actually happen for me and my business? Like, what would come from it? And so I like to write that down too. So you really get like, okay, when I'm being this person on one side, you're like, being this person, this is who I'm being. These are like the thoughts that come up. These are the actions that I take, and this is the impact. And then you go, okay, well, I created this new person that I really am and really desire to be, and who I am on the inside and who I'm going to be moving forward. When I'm that person, these are the actions that I would take, and these are the results that would happen. And then you go, and what would that person believe? And you go, that person would believe that like bringing on new clients is easy. They would believe that doing Facebook Lives are fun. They would believe that consistency is like the magic portion of their success. Whatever it is that you would say that person would believe, you jot that all down. And then once you have that, once you have like, I am this powerful person, these are the actions that I think that person would take, these are the results that they have, and this is what they would believe, then I would start incorporating some of this into your morning routine. And every morning, wake up and say like, I am a powerful badass and these are my beliefs. So you just tell yourself who you're being and what you believe. And from that, you sit in silence afterwards. This is one of the things that I like to do, and go, okay, well, now knowing that I am a powerful badass and this is what I believe, what other beliefs can I add to the table, if there are any? Like, I like to keep it, like, not only do I believe all this, I also believe all that. And then I like to go, okay, well, what actions do I think I should actually be taking now based off of that? So it's like, okay, I am this person today. This is who I am. What actions should I be taking today? And you jot down what actions you should be taking that day, and then that's what you go off and do. And so for the back, if we're going to kind of circle back to the beginning, where this supports you if you're not living your truth is that you get to create, you don't make your past actions wrong. They are what they were, and you're human. Like, bringing forth every day who you are and what you believe is something that really makes a huge difference, because left to our own devices, we will naturally go back to who we've been being, because we've been being that way most likely for a very long time. Probably a couple of decades, if not 3 for like many of us. So it's really like, okay, I get that my default is this right now, but I'm going to build, my muscles to really be stronger in this area and this person that I really want to be, and believing these things and taking these actions. And I'm going to read that every day so that I can really live in my truth. And when you're really living in your truth and going, okay, this is who I'm being, this is what I believe, then when it comes up for somebody to ask you to do something and you're like, hey, I'm a powerful badass and I totally get what you're requesting of me, and I get why you've come to me for it. This doesn't have to be your language at all. And I'm declining. I'm going to have to say no, or, you can just powerfully say no. And no isn't innately good or bad. No is just no. And then there's the interpretation of no that makes it good or bad. So a lot of times if you're having challenges saying yes or no to someone, it's because you've already interpreted what that yes or no means before you said it. And so yes or no isn't good or bad. It's just a yes or it's a no. So when you're able to really create who you want to be, and you are believing that you're that person and taking on being that person and reading those beliefs that you as that person would believe every day. And then when situations come up where requests are made of you, you can powerfully say yes or no. You can powerfully take actions to live in your truth. So anytime that you are really having a situation when you're like, ooh, I am not living in my truth right now, what's that about? You can start with, like, what I like to do is step one, like, what is that thought that first came to me? And you write that down. And then you go, okay, that was my thought that came to me. Who was I being in that moment? And you go, okay, that was my thought. This is who I'm being. And then you go, okay, now what is the impact of me doing that? And you go, all right, this is who I was being based off of this thought. This is the whole impact, and I don't want that anymore. And then you can choose something else. And you don't have to be stuck or have the experience of being stuck with who you have been in that instance, because to be honest, that's just human nature. You know, we have experiences throughout our entire lives that shape how we react to certain things. And the thing is that we oftentimes act as if that's our truth, as if, like, you know, I'm trying to think of an example, but like, you know, I was a kid and like I ended up having a hairdresser ruin my hair, and I had really long hair and she had to cut it very short, and it was like this like bob thing, and I had braces and I had glasses, and I was like going through puberty and I had acne, and so kids treated me a certain way, and I made that mean something about myself. I was like, ooh, I'm not, like, people don't like me, I'm not like likable, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, in my opinion, people could not like me, and that's fine. You either like me or you don't. But I had it mean that like all people didn't like me, which is not true. Obviously, there are people that like me. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in my Facebook group or watching my videos or anything of that nature. So the point is that if I continuously live my life off of that like fifth grader that got picked on because she was different, then I would not be where I was today, or I am today. I would be, you know, probably still thinking I was an awkward kid that nobody likes. But I choose something else. I choose to be, no, I'm a powerful badass and I have things to say and I think it will make a huge difference for people. So I'm going to go out there and do it. And I'm going to go out there and say it because that's who I am and that's what I believe in. And I'm going to say no to things that I don't believe in or that I don't want to do because it's of most service to me. Because I can't be off really supporting the people that I need to support if I'm doing things that I don't even want to do. So that's really the message for right now. I really, really hope that you got some value out of it. I really recommend taking doing that exercise anytime you're like, ooh, I'm not living in my truth. And literally just like, who are you being? What had you end up there just from like that thought? Like, I was thinking this, I ended up being this person, I took these actions or didn't take these actions. This is the impact. And this is what I choose instead. I choose to be this person. That person would do these actions. These would be the results that that person that I've created would take. And these are the beliefs that they would have. And then I promise you, if you read who you want to be every morning and the beliefs, over time you just start building that muscle of being like, yeah, I'm this person and I can do this and I can take it on. And it doesn't mean you'll never have a doubt again or you'll never say no when you don't mean to again. It just means that, you know, you'll be able to catch yourself more quickly. You'll be able to really like turn it around very quickly because you're like, no, this is who I am and I'm going to create that in this moment. So I hope that was super, super helpful for you lovely ladies, and continue to comment below if you have any questions or thoughts and let me know how it goes. Love you lots. Bye.